Need high-quality video to promote your event, business, or band? We can help.
We're Pixel Pond, a video production team based in the Pacific Northwest, providing high-quality content to clients across the U.S. and Canada.
Whether you want coverage of your live event to promote for next year, or need a camera and a camera operator for your next big project, we can accommodate projects of all sizes.
Your story is important. Visit pixelpondllc.com or send an email to info@pixelpondllc.com to get started today. We can't wait to work with you.
Coming up on Gamers Week podcast. The Entertainment Software Association, the trade group that represents the video games industry, is making a new conference after the collapse of E3. The Interactive Innovation Conference, or ICON, will gather industry folks across film, TV, music, sports, healthcare, education, and finance to connect with the games industry.
I was going to make a joke that I think that healthcare is there because I think that what they're looking for is a more updated version of Proctologist Simulator.
Yes, that would tempt healthcare executives to make the trek down to Vegas for this.
Would you like to try the demo?
It's VR.
Oh, we've got haptic gloves for this. You'll feel everything.
You slide your finger in, you can feel the polyp.
Is that a prostate? What is that?
So many jokes that I'm not going to make here on this show. Donnie, did you see the score of the Super Bowl by any chance?
Oh, starting off strong. I feel like he's ignoring you.
Yeah, it looks like he is. He doesn't want to face the truth, the consequences of his own actions.
I did see the score of the Super Bowl. I watched the whole thing.
I thought it was a great Super Bowl, personally.
No, you didn't.
It was the second best Super Bowl I've ever seen.
It was a game. Patrick Mahomes got owned pretty much the entire game, all the way up until like the last couple of minutes of the third quarter. And then they turned it on. You're like, oh, where the was this the entire time?
You said that was a game, but based off of the criteria that you just provided, I think that sounded like an excellent game.
See, second best Super Bowl ever.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because of the Chiefs and they got their asses handed to them. That's why you think it was an incredible game.
Mm-hmm.
You're very astute.
I think we need to focus on what's important here. And that would be choosing the correct nipple tassels for Donnie.
The correct nipple.
Is he really going to do this? Like, I'm skeptical that this is going to happen.
Why would you be skeptical?
I just think that you're not going to, no offense, and I wouldn't either. I'm throwing that out there. I would not have the fucking stones to pull my shirt off and wear nipple tassels on stream.
A bet's a bet.
All right. That's what
I always pay my debts, so
I just wonder what impact it's going to have on our viewership.
See, I'm wondering that too.
All of a sudden, it just says one viewer, or like word gets out, right? Like the bear loving community out there. All of a sudden, we got to see this guy.
Oh, we got a raid coming in. Holy shit. Somebody raided us with 2,500 viewers.
There you go. High risk, high reward, you guys. I say we do it.
Please become a patron, and Donnie will now post, if that happens, a monthly nipple shot just for our new patrons.
All right, the Stream Deck is working. I haven't had this thing hooked up in for so long, and now we're golden. Now it's hands-free.
Did you set up like fun little images for your Stream Deck?
Not yet. I'm not that bougie. I didn't want to go too much into the weeds. But
this is my disappointed face.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Not mad, just disappointed.
Correct.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Oh, hello, everyone.
Look at us. It's Donnie G. It's Ryan. It's Bluesif. We're here
We're on
live.
time.
I know. Don't start to expect this. It's just a one-time thing.
If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're fired. All right. On that note, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Gamers Week podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, worst, and weirdest headlines of the past week in the video game industry. This is episode 152, and today is Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. My name is donniegretro, and I will be your host this evening, but I am not alone. As you can see, I have my two gracious co-hosts with me. Co-hosts, Mr. Ryan Payne and Mrs. Blue Williams. How are you guys this evening?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for
Good.
asking. This seems very polite.
Yeah, that's it. Just a Mr. and a Mrs. and that's our introduction?
That's our introduction. I kind of forgot, that I was hosting this evening. So I was setting up all this other stuff for the stream. And then we get in and we start chatting. And I realized I don't have anything to introduce you guys to. Because the other night, whenever we were playing or recording, I was playing Contra.
You could introduce me as the hat trick daddy.
I would rather cut off my left hand.
Your choice. Either or. We're watching.
Say hello to the hat trick daddy who won another bet that I had with her on the Super Bowl that the Eagles would kick the Chiefs' butt, and that's what happened. So she gets another title on top of her already elaborate titles, and I don't know when it's going to end.
Never. Settle in and get used to it. See, Simon Ashner says, hat trick daddy.
No, thank you. Let's go ahead and jump into our reviews, reactions, and requests this week. Mogak says, how many nails are in the live service coffin by this point? Is it a coffin made of nails and analogous or analogous?
If you don't get it right, Zach Huge Thanks will let you know.
It's analogous.
An anal lozenge?
Yeah.
Is it a coffin made of nails analogous to the Iron Throne? Continuing that, does each failed live service attempt strengthen the handful of successful games? Does that make Helldivers 2 the king in the North?
I like these Game of Thrones references. I just want to throw that out there.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like if it's a nail gun that we're using, right? It happens to be an automatic nail gun, like, you know? Lots of nails.
Science Evangelist says, I think there are a multitude of reasons why VR has not caught on yet. Most people consider it an impersonal novelty that doesn't justify the price. Also the price. Horizon Store is a mess to sort through. No one takes the business case or productivity as practical, and with good reason. Optics are not quite there yet, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a multitude of reasons as to why he thinks or she thinks that the VR has not caught on yet. Now, I will say that the price is, you're talking about $300 plus for a standalone system.
For the
Not
cheapest.
to mention, yeah, for the cheapest, $299, $199, what have you. If you're talking like for a full all-out system, you're looking like maybe what, $700 or $800 or even $1,500.
Yeah, and like what the one that they came out with Meta was something like $3,000.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
The one where they said that we're going to do all our office work in there instead of just using the computer you already have to do your office work.
That costs less than $3,000.
Right. Thinking like that, in my humble opinion, is why it's not catching on. But, you know.
And last but not least, Games with Coffee says, congratulations on making episode 151. You now have as many episodes under your belt as the first generation of Pokemon.
That is perhaps the nerdiest congratulations we've ever gotten.
And you know what? We'll take it.
Yes.
You know
always take
what
it.
came to mind was, for me, was not Pokemon. It was Bacardi.
Which is funny because you're the only one of us who really played that first gen of Pokemon.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess
That's true.
too much Bacardi has erased that memory.
But
Nice. Well done.
all right, let's go ahead and move on to our patron shoutouts.
We couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous patrons. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. Davey PGH, the Pixelpon family, including Shannon and Luke, Zach Huge Thanks, Puzzle Better, Number One Blue Sick Voice Fan, John Barron, Sassy Sony, Evo Lust, Rai Rai's Secret Best Friend, Mega Retro Man, Gamatroid, Mora Deeb, Michael, Be Fair, Everyone wants Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Look height. Emo Esque, Bill Tucker, The Real Retro Game Brews, Fruitcakes Pickled Pepper, Ducks with Thick Thighs, Absolutely the Best Podcast, A Work in Progress, Wizard of Zardoz, Bob's and Dugnut, Blue's Little Sis, Loudmouth, Retro Blast Pat, B&T Zilla Guide, The Mad Milkman, Seven Castle Forest, Crunchy Kong, Sheriff Snacks, Frank Grande, Love Retro BTW, Steven Sand, Ramboski, Terry Kinnair, A-Gill 2020, Don't Make Me Pull Over This Car, Games with Coffee, Hyper Divide, and You Fall Before Me. If you like what you hear today, and we really hope you do, please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the cost of producing the show, as well as other cool stuff we'll be doing like prizes and giveaways. You'll also gain access to our bi-weekly patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn more.
All right. Thanks, Blue. Let's go ahead and take a look at our headlines for the week.
Our headline segment is proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic family-friendly retro gaming podcast. In each episode, Rob picks 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Right now, they want to know, what is your favorite pleasant surprise in video games? Shout out to the Nerd Noise Radio for the question, and send your answers to email at retrogameclub.net or follow the link in the show notes.
Most recently, my favorite pleasant surprise was Balatro.
Ah.
Because originally I got it for Mr. Blue because he loves to play casino video games, like especially the old casino video games on the NES, Casino Kid and stuff like that. He can't get enough of those. He plays them forever, to the point where, because it's the very small sample of music that just loops the whole time. So after about 75 minutes, I'm like, will you please mute the TV, please. So I got him Balatro because I thought that he would like it. And it turned out he hated it. I was like, well, we paid for this. I'm going to play it. Of course, I'm freaking obsessed with it. And it's essentially all I've played for the last 2-3 months. So pleasant surprise.
I see every time on my Switch, it says Donnie has come online and it says game Balatro.
One of us. One of us.
I took that question as, I mean, you're saying for one specific game, pleasant surprises in video games. I'd say something with a good soundtrack. Yeah, that's always a pleasant surprise. Something that I can jam to outside of the game. Listening to on a walk or working out or what have you. Those are pleasant surprises for me.
Satisfaction. I love that comment. He said, "People say Kingdom Hearts has a good soundtrack, even if it's an awful game." Booyakasha.
It is an awesome soundtrack because it's Yoko Shimomura wrote all that music, and she is the queen of video game music.
For me, pleasant surprise was, I'll give you an example. The first time I played Earthbound, I wasn't really sure what to expect with it. I've heard that it's a fantastic game and it was great. The humor in that game was a pleasant surprise. So, for example, there's a spot in which you are watching the Fab Five play in a concert hall, and you go up and talk to somebody and they say, I just farted. You may not want to stand near me. And I was like, this game gets me. This game gets me. And so I was hooked from there on out. Oh, Runaway 5. That's it. The Runaway 5. I'm sorry. That's right.
Actually.
No. He's welcome to correct me on that one. Because you know what? I would have heard from somebody who wasn't watching the live stream later on. Like, you're an idiot. But yes, thank you, Simon S.J.
It would have come in on our reviews, reactions, and requests.
Exactly. I've eliminated that from that possibility. So Simon, you are my hero.
Somebody was already typing out their reply and they went, oh.
Raise your hand if you farted at a concert. All right, this week's headlines. A brand new State of Play arrived today, and it gave us an exciting look at the future of PS5 with a ton of games. Here are the highlights from the show. Saros is Housemarque's next game after Returnal, and it's set to arrive on PS5 in 2026. While it looks a lot like Returnal, it looks to be a new game set on the planet of Carcosa that is under the threat of an ominous eclipse. There will be permanent progression systems, and every death reshapes the world while offering new upgrades to overcome challenges. While Onimusha Way of the Sword won't be released until 2026, Capcom stopped by the State of Play to help with the wait with new gameplay trailer that shows off the game's new protagonist, the historic swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. Konami has confirmed Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater will be released on August 28th, 2025, while Gearbox confirmed that Borderlands 4 will release on September 23rd, 2025. Tides of Annihilation was one of the big surprises of the show and looks like a beautiful single-player, narrative-driven action-adventure game that combines intense, breakneck combat, an immersive narrative, and an unforgettable setting. Players will take on the role of Gwendolyn and will be able to call in the Knights of the Round Table to help her in combat.
Lies of P Overture will serve as a prequel to the 2023 Souls-like and will let players uncover the hidden stories of Krat and see how you woke up in the middle of the Great Puppet Frenzy. WWE 2K25 has finally pulled back the curtain on its social multiplayer wrestling hub known as The Island. Players will be able to take their custom wrestlers into this new world and explore, take on challenges, develop storylines, and much more. Shinobi Art of Vengeance is a new entry in the beloved franchise that will launch on PS5 and PS4 on August 29, 2025. While it isn't a Metroidvania, players will unlock abilities that will let them explore hidden paths and discover secrets, which should add to the replayability. And Metal Eden is described as an adrenaline rush sci-fi FPS, and players will be able to find out exactly what that means when it is released on PS5 on May 6th, 2025.
Lost Souls Aside received a new gameplay and story trailer alongside a release date of May 30th, 2025 on PS5 and PC. Lost Souls Aside started as a one-person dream from Yang Bing and has now evolved into a spiraling adventure full of breathtaking visuals and adrenaline-pumping combat. Supermassive Games Directive 8020 will be released on October 2nd, 2025, and will bring together sci-fi exploration with spine-chilling horror, where every choice could lead to a disastrous death. PlayStation fans were treated with a stunning look at stop-motion first-person action game known as The Midnight Walk. The unique title will be released on both PS5 and PSVR2 on May 8th, 2025. And the action-adventure story platformer Darwin's Paradox is aiming to let players truly understand what it feels like to be an octopus. Darwin can climb, camouflage himself, and shoot ink with the added benefit of feeling the actions come to life on the DualSense. And Five Nights at Freddy's is making a return after almost 2 years with The Secret of the Mimic, where players will face off against a foe who can become the other animatronic characters, because that's not scary at all.
So, what did you guys think of the state of play? Anything catching your attention?
So I'm going to say, just because I'm a huge fan of octopi or octopuses, depending on who you ask. Yeah, you can giggle at that. That's fine.
Octopuses. 8 of them, man.
It sounds to me like it's like another one of those like the bread game or whatever, you know, where you got to flip the bread and get it to toast or whatever. But it's super fun looking, and I love the concept of being able to be an octopus. I want an octopus as a pet, and so I can have a digital. I agree, because they're sentient beings, more or less, like near sentience. But I still want an octopus best friend. So now I can do it without harming an actual octopus.
I could just imagine a game comes out that you actually have an octopus as a friend, and like he just rests on your head to make it looks like you're maybe Caribbean or Jamaican, and because his tentacles hang down or something like that, and you got the big thing, the big sack that. God,
do you want me to actually you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Octopuses or octopi do not have tentacles; they only have arms. Love you, Donnie.
What's the difference between a tentacle and an arm?
A tentacle is a long, extended appendage with suckers on the very end of it, right? So like a squid has, where an octopus has suckers all the way down its arm.
Okay, I'm going to say that there were several games here that looked amazing to me. Like there's so many to mention. Like Hell Is Us, we didn't even touch on that one. Hell Is Us looked very interesting. I'm not sure exactly what the concept is there. It looks it almost looks like futuristic, apocalyptic stuff like that. Third person adventure game. You had Mind's Eye, which looked a little bit Grand Theft Auto and Cyberpunk mixed together. Lost Soul Aside looks very Final Fantasy-ish. Like as soon as I saw that, I was like, what the hell? Like, is this a new Final Fantasy game? No, it wasn't. Darwin's Paradox looks fun, like you said, Ryan, with the octopus, and Midnight Walk. That one looked very, very amazing and creepy to me.
I will say I could not care less about WWE 2K25 and this
absolutely
social media wrestling hub. I mean, if you're into that, by all means. I think if you're going to play a wrestling game, like, do you care about the other stuff? Like, isn't it just about the action piece to it? I mean, do you really? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, maybe I'm completely wrong on that.
It reminded me of like how Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 both decided they wanted to have these online like social hub worlds.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it looked like WWE is just trying to do that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because as far as build a wrestler and take him through a career, that's been done since the N64.
Right.
But so that's nothing new. But like you said, Blue, it looks like they're trying to cash in on the whole social hub aspect of things. And I like, as far as Street Fighter 6 is concerned, whenever it came out, I was like, oh man, I'm going to play this game. I'm going to be a fighter guy, which I am a fighter guy. I was like, I'm going to be really into it. And then just like, kind of lost it, like with the whole story progression and all that stuff. Like, I want a fighting game that lets me fight. That's it.
Yeah. I think we visited the Tekken 8 social hub twice.
Ooh.
Was it a good visit?
Nah. But yeah, I'll agree. I thought this was a great state of play. I saw some people online criticizing it because it's all third-party stuff. So it's Sony just cashing in on everybody else and still kind of not really putting out anything first-party. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm okay with that. I thought Saros from Housemarque Next Returnal looked fantastic. The new Onimusha looks fantastic. Tides of Annihilation. Yeah, you nailed it on the head. It looks like Final Fantasy 15 and 16. And
no, that was Lost Soul Aside. Tides of Annihilation.
No, you're right.
Tides of Annihilation looks like God of War, Final Fantasy, and Shadow of Colossus had a baby.
Yes, it does. And that also looks fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I'm here to play Gwendolyn and have the Knights of the Round Table at my beck and call. I'm all for that. Lies of P Overture, I need to finish the base game, but looks cool. And that Shinobi game, holy crap.
Yeah.
2D platformer, it looks like kind of an Okami art style. So cool.
When's the last time we got a Shinobi game?
Jesus, forever? On the Xbox?
I mean, the ones
maybe?
that I'm familiar with are Genesis.
I think they came out with one on the Xbox or PS2 or something like that.
Yeah, because they came out with like Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox, so that wouldn't surprise me.
But it's nothing like what they were, the original 2D platformers. So Shinobi is coming out, a 2D platformer, an amazing looking one. Ninja Gaiden is coming out with another actual 2D platformer that looks freaking amazing. So if we're going back to that, where you're not coming out with 2D platformers that are 10 times more difficult than what they were on the original NES, Sega Genesis, Sega Master System, Super Nintendo, I am all for that, because I am now just at the point where I can kind of master those 2D platformers and go through them. It's like, oh, okay, memorization and all that stuff. But if you want to give me new stuff that's really challenging, I'm there. I
just saw a statistic today on Twitter, so definitely trust this stat.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But it said 14% of all adults play games from the year 2000 or before regularly. And maybe companies are going, hey, this whole like nostalgia thing is doing gangbusters. I mean, they've come out with a lot of stuff over the past couple of years. I would not be upset if they continue to do that. I think we need more.
Two things. The last Shinobi game was just Shinobi in 2011, known in Japan as Shinobi 3D for the Nintendo 3DS. So it's been a hot minute. Number two, I bet they've recognized that we are the demographic that buys games we don't have time to play because they make us feel nostalgia. So they said, we'll just keep putting them out and they'll keep buying them and it'll be great.
Of course.
It's got to look really good on their shelves.
Oh, and another one, the Midnight Walk, which was that claymation, complete Tim Burton Nightmare Fuel looking game. Oh, that looks so cool. I'm so ready for that one.
Lastly, I'm excited to play as Miyamoto Musashi. I have a tattoo of him on my chest.
I thought you were just trying to show your nipple so that
Donnie
wouldn't be the only one with a nip slip.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you have it.
Nope, not going to show it.
No, but you already did one time.
kind of see it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What is it?
Yeah, it looks like just it went from 6 to midnight. That's what it looks like it's going on in your chest.
He's very happy to be there.
There are 2 games here that are going to be like a must-have for me day one. The very first one, top of the list, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. Mm-hmm. I like that game is amazing. It's got an amazing soundtrack. And to have that game in a polished state on like the PS5, like Snake Eater wasn't that bad on the PS2. It wasn't terrible. But to have that revamped for the PS5, I mean, come on, if you go back and try to play most PS2 games, you're just like, you're kind of struggling. But to have all new graphics and probably new stuff in the story to come out on the PS5, I'm all for that. I love the Metal Gear Solid series. The other one is Shinobi Art of Vengeance. I am a tried and true 2D platformer guy, and this one is looking amazing. And that's another one that's going to be a day one purchase for me.
For me, it's Onimusha. Love Japanese stuff, so that's obvious. And Shinobi as well. I agree. Shinobi is a day one purchase easily. Yeah,
absolutely. If I had to pick 2 day one, for sure, Shinobi and then Midnight Walk. Okay. I really want that to be good.
Yeah.
The Entertainment Software Association, the trade group that represents the video games industry, is making a new conference after the collapse of E3. This time closed to the public and focused on connecting games to the rest of the entertainment business. The Interactive Innovation Conference, or ICON, will gather industry folks across film, TV, music, sports, healthcare, education, and finance to connect with the games industry. Scheduled for April 2026 in Las Vegas, ESA's ICON promises visionary keynotes, engaging discussions and workshops, and elite networking opportunities with executives shaping the future of entertainment, business, and technology, according to a news release from the organization. Stanley Pierre-Louis, ESA president and CEO, said the idea is to help other business sectors understand how games as a culture and technology can serve them, and that they can transcend entertainment.
Quickly, before we get into this, I want to point out that Eldronox is saying Onimusha is one of my all-time favorites as well, and it will be a day one for me.
Awesome.
Rambowski says, can't hardly wait for that Metal Gear Solid. Need to replay the old one again before it releases. And TKN85 says, Snake Eater had you burn leeches off your crotch. Pete Kojima. Cannot wait to do that in the remake.
It's going to, like, on the dual sense.
Oh, you're really going to feel the haptic feedback on that one.
He really puts you into the experience. That's why we love him.
So, yeah. Icon.
I gotta be honest with you. The fact that it's closed off to the public immediately makes me less excited about this.
Well, let's think about E3. I mean, obviously, we're not excited because it's not for us. But E3 began to fail when it led in the public.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Because then it spread itself too thin. But to me, I don't think that matters if they're trying to go back to the model that they had when they were successful. Because this is like your brother-in-law who keeps wanting loans to start new businesses.
It's a good analogy. Yeah.
Sorry, Todd. The last 4 failed. Why should I give you more money for this one?
And the reason that they expanded out to the public, if I remember right, too, is that it wasn't being successful. So this was their opportunity to try to make it more successful. Mm-hmm. And so what makes, to your point, what makes this any different or any better? I think the people who were most fond of E3, of course, were the press, because they got to talk a lot about what was happening and experience all that.
Right.
So my hope is that this is, of course, open to the press, or else if it's not, I do not give a shit about this. Congratulations, gaming industry. You have your own special club. But maybe in this day and age, networking in that sense isn't really done in person as like it was back in the 90s or early 2000s, right? Mm-hmm. In the digital age, when we have so much access to each other, I don't know if it's necessary, or as necessary, let me rephrase, as necessary as it used to be. People share information pretty readily with each other. And I think you might be trying to relive the nostalgia of E3 in order to get this off the ground. I'm not sure. I'm skeptical about the success of this.
Yeah. Well, and especially because it says Icon will gather industry folks from across film, TV, music, sports, healthcare, education, and finance. Like, we're just going to bring everybody in. But each of those sectors has their own concerns, their own values. What on earth are you going to put out that's going to appeal to any of these people? Why should they care what video games are doing?
Right.
Because it's going to be a way for video games to kind of ease into that, whatever, in like healthcare, education. You know, education uses video games. There's certain, I can't even begin to tell you what kind of educational games there are, but there are educational video games because every kid has a laptop or a tablet or what have you. So, but you're right, Ryan. If there's no press to really cover this stuff, then what's the point? You know, this kind of reminds me of the PGA Tour before Happy Gilmore got there. And then all of a sudden he gets there and it's all the riffraff and all that stuff. They show up and you got guys with the beer drinking helmets and stuff. And that's what E3 kind of turned into. And then they're like, oh, we need the public to come in here and spice things up. And they did that. And it was like, ooh, okay.
Hot on one cheek, PPY, sure enough on the other.
Exactly.
So I was going to make a joke that I think that healthcare is there because I think that what they're looking for is a more updated version of Proctologist Simulator.
Yes, that would tempt healthcare executives to make the trek down to Vegas for this.
Would you like to try the demo?
It's VR.
Oh, we've got haptic gloves for this. You'll feel everything.
You slide your finger in, you can feel the polyp.
Is that a prostate? What is that?
So many jokes that I'm not going to make here on this show.
So, I mean, good luck to them. Hopefully they have some kind of a semblance of a plan as to what benefit this is eventually going to reach. I'm just skeptical that 2026 is not going to be the only year that they do this.
Good call.
And I really don't see how much more of a reach video games can make. You know, video games are everywhere in our society.
They are, but they're not. They're still just entertainment. Where it sounds like this is wanting. Yeah, they are. I
don't believe that.
I'm going to talk about during our Gaming History 101 tonight why video games are not just entertainment. Haha.
Okay. I'm going to say 99.9% of people think they're just entertainment.
That's fair. I can go along with that. That statistic works.
All right, next up, the good news out of Warner Brothers games, according to a new Bloomberg report, is that Rocksteady Studios is looking to make a new single-player Batman game. The bad news, however, is pretty much everything else. In November 2024, Warner announced a $100 million loss due to the underperforming releases, primarily Multiverse this quarter, which landed on top of a $200 million loss driven by the failure of Suicide Squad. Sources say the company has already put more than $100 million into the Wonder Woman game announced in 2021, but it was reportedly rebooted and given a new director in early 2024, and remains years away from release, if it makes it to release at all. Numerous sources laid the blame for Warner's video game troubles on a lack of coherent direction under the leadership of CEO David Haddad, who announced in January that he's stepping down. JB Perrette, CEO and president of global streaming and games for Warner Brothers Discovery, said the company will get right back to profitability in 2025, but acknowledged it will take longer to get back to levels of profitability the company expects. So even if they make $1 in 2025,
profitability is profitability. Man. We'll split that dollar between all the shareholders.
Not even enough for a pizza party.
I didn't realize there was a Wonder Woman game in development. I must have missed that one.
Yeah.
But
I think they're trying to keep the lid on that dumpster fire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We talked about Multiverse last week and how bad it was and why they thought it was going to be a good thing to release a Super Smash Brothers clone with all of their IP and think it was going to be successful. The other thing was Suicide Squad was an online only game. You're forcing people into these different things that doesn't take well. Right. Take the Batman games for the Arkham series. Those games were superb. Forever will be some of my favorite games. The storylines were great. You're not forced online. You're not forced to play with other people. It's just a great single player narrative with a lot of great mechanics. And if they go to repeat something like that with a new story, it's going to sell like hotcakes because as long as you do it exactly like you did it with the other ones, maybe throw in something a little bit new, I don't see how it can fail.
As long as you stick to the gameplay as well, like with Arkham. That beat 'em up style, like 3D beat 'em up style. I love that plays well to Batman. It fits with his character. It's what you would expect out of that. As long as you're sticking with something similar to that. But to your point, you could just add more to it, right?
Of
Batman
course.
had gadgets. He had vehicles. He has all these things, right, that you could certainly bring in if you wanted to. So the draw there, I think, will always be for Batman. The problem, though, is with Wonder Woman. With the movies that came out, the first one, super, super popular. People loved it. They really, really liked it. Then Wonder Woman, 1984 came out and people hated it. Yeah, it was like, this is the worst thing ever. So that's a strike against you potentially. Really, if you wanted to hit the iron when it's hot, is you would wait until they come out with another Wonder Woman movie, which Warner Brothers would have a say on. If they decide to do that, right? Knowing that it's years off down the line, you could certainly plan that out to mix with it so that you could hopefully get a decent one. But I don't know if Wonder Woman has the same draw as Batman. Not to say that she shouldn't, because she's obviously an extremely popular character, had her own show in the 70s. Oh, Linda Carter. Yeah.
Hopefully it lets you choose which Wonder Woman you want to play as.
Oh, yeah. I'm in my room playing Wonder Woman. Don't disturb me.
Hybrid Divide says $20 says WB gets the Batman game completed and well reviewed and then cancels it for a tax write-off.
Oh, you son of a...
I understood that reference. That reference. Webhead says Wonder Woman game first announced in 2021. So thanks, WB, for all these years of hope that has now been crushed.
Right.
Simon Astor says Harley Quinn, known for her comically large mallet, uses guns. King Shark, the massive hulking jawed muscle, uses guns. Captain Boomerang, guns. What's the effing point?
Right.
But I think you guys are right in that the reason they are announcing this Batman game is because they've lost $300 million in failed games. And they're like, what's the last thing we did that was super successful? Arkham? Great. Let's do that again. They're going to walk a fine line between not just force feeding people the same stuff that they've already done. They're going to have to change it, but not too much. So that in itself is going to be a challenge. But a Wonder Woman game seems like it should be the easiest home run on the planet.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what they're doing that has made it so freaking difficult, but...
I'm just thinking it was a Battle Royale live service game at one point.
All the Amazons fighting.
Yeah, 99 Wonder Woman.
Yeah. I think JB Perrette saying we're going to get right back to profitability in 2025. I think what he's really saying is, please don't make me step down like you did David Haddad. I would like to keep my job.
Give me a chance.
What a call out too, by the way. Can you imagine being called out in the press like that for your job as CEO that you just stepped down from? It's like kicking a dude while he's down. Now, granted,
He's not that down.
Yeah.
he's probably doing well for himself.
Yeah.
Not wrong. But
For all we know, he screwed up on purpose just so he can walk away with his golden parachute.
probably. There you go.
Eldernox says, I would love to see a Batman Beyond game one day in the future. I think the last one they did was on the PlayStation, but I would not be surprised to learn that one of the new Batman games that it's in development will have Batman Beyond in it, or something to do with maybe with like Michael Keaton or what have you.
Can we get a Batman and Robin with the bat nipples?
I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?
Give me milk me. We could do a Batman 66. I know you love that.
No. Actually, you know what? Okay. I don't hate Batman 66. I prefer Batman 89 because it's darker and everything. That's what Batman should be.
I agree.
If they were to come out with like a decent Batman 66 game, I would play it.
Like make it in the feeling of the show. So it's a little corny with the pows and the wax, but make it so it looks like it's a comic from like the Silver Age. Right, kind of like you remember Comic Zone back on the
that art style.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love that.
That would be cool.
And then like there's a thing where you have to get rid of a bomb.
There's no way to get rid of the bomb.
Right, you're hanging from a helicopter with sprayed on shark repellent, right, and it's jumping after you, something like that. Just like an homage to it, I think would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're right, J Dragon. Best Batman, best Batmobile, Tim Burton, 1989, hands down. Enough said.
Yep.
All right. Last but not least, remember the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Kickboxer? Yes.
I try to forget.
What?
It's a shit movie.
No. Tong po, tong po, tong po.
It's okay. Let me put it this way. It's a shit movie, but it's an 80s movie, which
Makes it great.
Makes it better.
Yeah.
Instantly.
See, I know when you wear khakis, you wear them like all the way up here.
And the khakis and the wife beater.
Yeah, specifically because of that movie.
Because that's the one where he's dancing in the park. Well, they're making a video game of it now. Force Multiplier Studios has the rights to games based on the Kickboxer cinematic universe.
Yes. Go on YouTube, right, and look up free movies. And from last I knew, there was like Kickboxer 1 through like 5 or 4.
I knew there were at least 2.
And I think after the first one, or the first or second one, there is no Jean-Claude Van Damme anymore.
Right. The second one is involving his brother, if I'm not mistaken. Like his brother's the main character or something like that. Well, it says Kickboxer's cinematic universe and is making a game that says we'll combine the rich narrative of Kickboxer with kinetic martial arts action to deliver an intense, high-octane brawler and feature iconic characters and locations from the franchise. In a press release, CEO of Force Multiplier Studios, Jeremy Breslaw, said, "We can't wait to innovate the fighting genre with incredibly visceral combat and an emphasis on the environment and what you can do in it. We are crafting a dynamic brawler that will empower players to be the best kickboxers in the world, traveling to exotic locales and introducing new environmental combat mechanics to deliver a martial arts experience like never before." The founders of Force Multiplier Studios have Tales from the Borderlands and multiple Call of Duty games among their credits, and the studio says we can expect to hear more about the Kickboxer game later in 2025.
I think they picked the wrong Jean-Claude Van Damme 80s movie.
You think it should have been Bloodsport?
Yes.
Oh my God, should have been Bloodsport.
Well, yeah,
all the
but
way.
Force Multiplier Studios, they very clearly say they have the rights to the Kickboxer cinematic universe, which is a phrase I did not have on my bingo card for this week. They do not own, clearly, the rights to the Bloodsport cinematic universe.
I do have a copy of Bloodsport. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
And like Ryan says, the first Kickboxer movie, it's 80s gold. I mean, does it hold up today? Probably not. But like I remember, like you're fighting Tong Po. Tong Po breaks your brother's back and all that stuff. Ooh,
Nice.
Look at that.
Nice.
It's fake. It's completely fake, but I wanted it.
I was like, I don't remember them making a Bloodsport game for the SNES.
All right. It was a gift, but it totally, and it's super Bloodsport because it has to be on Super Nintendo. So there you go. I actually don't even know what game is in here. I haven't plugged it in yet.
You know, like many people point out, Bloodsport is basically Mortal Kombat. And we already have plenty of Mortal Kombat games.
Yes, absolutely.
But you could play as all the characters. You could try to get world records.
Yeah, but here we're gonna get to play as the iconic characters from the Kickboxer cinematic universe. Because you can probably name at least like 3 of them, right?
2. There's Jean-Claude Van Damme and there's Tong Po and there's Jean-Claude's brother. Okay, there you go.
Well, and there's the old man who trains him, right?
That's okay. Yeah, you're right.
I don't know his name.
So they could just come up with names and you wouldn't care because you wouldn't even know.
Puzzle Better says Jean-Claude Van Damme. That looks good. Fresh Prince, probably.
I'd be more receptive of a Bloodsport game where actually they did it Mortal Kombat style without fatalities. Yes, you could probably kill them. You could kill your opponent, but not in the gruesome, destructive way that Mortal Kombat has come for us to be known as. More like Street Fighter with death. If they wanted to do it with that, I'd do that.
Yeah, and I agree with you because the reason I think Street Fighter and Tekken and Mortal Kombat work is because not all the martial arts styles are all different, right?
It's not just all kickboxing.
It's not, just not all kickboxing, which, I mean, if you're into kickboxing and you watch the sport religiously, I get it. But as far as I'm concerned, I want some variety, right? The difference of you playing as a sumo versus, a giant Soviet wrestler, like, there's a great amount of variety there. So you could play to your strengths if you want to. I don't know if I've played a lot of boxing games. And unless you're talking about like Mike Tyson's Punch Out, which has some built-in variety on purpose, it's boring. It's punch high, punch low, punch high, punch low, and it gets old really quick, especially if you're talking about like the old school boxing games.
Yeah.
Like Buster Douglas's.
I think this is a simple matter of they're trying to pump up the rights that they have.
Mm-hmm.
I get the feeling like they bought this on a bet.
Like, we can't afford the blood sport. What do you have that's the next step down?
We have Kickboxer.
Step into my office.
Yeah.
We're going to show you the discount ones. The ones I'm going to show you the ones you can afford. So.
Yeah.
Tekken85 says the dude that played Cody on Step by Step took over for a few in the series of Kickboxer. Let's go. And I just looked it up.
Really?
And you're right. In Kickboxer 3 Art of War, there's Cody on the cover. And I'm like, what?
Like the guy who was the like surfer kind of like,
yeah,
man,
bro.
that's
Yeah. But he knew martial arts.
Really?
He knew how to kick people's butts.
Maybe we should do that for a patron movie night because I bet it would be hilarious.
Yes.
Just watch the Kickboxer cinematic universe.
Like the first one, you would go, okay, this isn't bad. And then there's that just like immediately downhill, right?
I don't think it's a rich series that you're going to be able to milk and get some good content out of it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Like if as long as they have like different mini games where you're trying to kick the bamboo tree with your shin.
There should be a dancing mini game.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to move the joystick to sway the hips.
If it's on the PS5, it's got the
haptic feedback.
Yeah, the haptic feedback. So you got to hold it, and it can sense if you're doing the moves correctly. If you're really getting the hips into
VR too.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I'd play that game if it was VR.
Until it got to the actual fighting piece, and you'd be exhausted after one round.
Throwing up in the corner.
Hey, Donnie, why are you hitting the gym? Just bought Kickboxer, man. Gotta get into shape.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our top 3 new releases for the week.
All right, first up is Tomb Raider 4, 5, and 6 Remastered, out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Play the next series of Tomb Raider adventures in this remastered collection of the Darkness trilogy. Follow Lara Croft around iconic locales, including Cairo, Rome, Paris, and many more. Play with the original polygonal models or swap to the remastered graphics at any time. Next is The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak 2, out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Return to the Calvard Republic and unravel the mystery of the Crimson Beast. A shocking series of murders has set the wheels of fate into motion once again. With chaos looming on the horizon, the sands of time bring old and new faces together for this thrilling second installment in the Trails Through Daybreak saga. And last is Sid Meier's Civilization 7, out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. The award-winning strategy game franchise returns with a revolutionary new chapter. Sid Meier's Civilization 7 empowers you to build the greatest empire the world has ever known. Construct cities and architectural wonders to expand your territory, improve your civilization with technological breakthroughs, and conquer or cooperate with rival civilizations as you explore the far reaches of the unknown world. Pursue prosperity in an immersive solo experience or play with others in online multiplayer. So out of these 3, what are you in for, Ryan?
I'm going to start off with Tomb Raider. I am familiar with the first 3 entries that were on PlayStation. I am not familiar with 4, 5, and 6.
Tekken85 says, the 1 to 3 remaster was great, and switching between graphics with the push of a button rules in any remaster. That said, I could not have told you that 4 through 6 even existed.
See, yep. I don't even know what system they were on, to be perfectly honest with you. But I think for me, I didn't buy the remasters of 1 through 3, so I think I would rather buy those first and then kind of wait and see for this. So I would say this is not a day one purchase, but Tomb Raider, it's a good series. At least the first 3 have always been pretty good. Mm-hmm. So I'd be at least willing to try it out. Legends of Heroes, I'm confused by the description here. I don't know exactly. I haven't played the first one either, so I haven't played Trails Through the Daybreak. So really always cautious about getting into a second one without playing the first one. So probably going to hold off on that. But Sid Meier's Civilization 7. I feel old because I was there when the first one came out.
I was there, Gandalf.
But I was there, Gandalf, 3,000 years ago. I love Civilization games. So this is definitely a day one purchase for me. More Civilization, more opportunities to play. Love the fact that you can play online with friends if you want to. I just need to find friends who play Civilization games. So I'm not looking at either of you two. But at the end of the day, always love those types of games. Sign me up. Love me some Sid Meier. So that's what I'm going with this week.
Puzzle says, I've been playing since Civ 3, so I can't stop ever. The world depends on me. So there you go. Now you know somebody who plays Civ.
And knowing is half the battle.
What about you, Donnie?
Really quickly, Frankie did say something about Balatro coming out with a Kickboxer themed deck. And I think they should do that because they already have The Witcher and Cyberpunk. So give me Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Kickboxer, Bloodsport, Universal Soldier, all that stuff. The Legend of Heroes, I looked at it and I can't really tell what it is. It looks like it might be a RPG and like a cute fantasy type RPG. And those are a dime a dozen these days. So I don't know what's going to draw me into that one. Sid Meier's Civilization. I've never played a single Sid Meier's in my life. I know it's a strategy. It's real-time strategy. You're not mad. You're just disappointed. I know, Dad. Sorry. He's got a very stern look on his face right now. He took his headphones off. I'm about to get a lecture. That face looks like I'm about to get a lecture.
See, Simon is saying, Ryan says, day one purchase for me, but it came out 2 days ago.
Oh,
The first day that I know about it.
You got called out.
Yes.
So a game like SimCity, I loved, but I've never played Civilization just because I think it's mixed with city building plus also Risk-esque war type situations, correct?
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
I think you should give it a try.
If I can find a free copy of it, sure, I might play it and
For the
see
price
what I
of
think
On
of
the
it.
House.
Yeah. I'll give you a price for On the House. Which leaves us with the Tomb Raider 4, 5, and 6 remastered. Love the original trilogy on the PlayStation. 4 was actually on the PlayStation itself, was on the PlayStation and the Dreamcast, if I'm not mistaken. But I've never played 4, 5, or 6. I think after 3, I just kind of got a little bit tired of it and moved on to other things. So I'd be interested to see how those games play. I'd like to see that in a newer setting as opposed to the older polygonal graphics, because those just are like, if you played the original Tomb Raider, try to go back and play it on the original PlayStation. It is unbearable. So for me, I think this week is probably going to be a big fat 0, but I could play 2 of the 3.
Nice.
Cool.
Cool.
Blue, what about you? What are you picking this week?
So Tomb Raider has a great reputation, but I think that none of us really know anything about 4, 5, and 6. Probably says a lot about where the series went, the trajectory straight down. So probably not gonna pick up those ones. Sid Meier's Civ 7. Like, there's a lot of chatter in the chat. People love this series, been playing it forever. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news. This one's getting real bad reviews.
Oh, really?
People are saying it's a 100% rebuild of the game. They changed everything. They changed the UI. They changed how you play. They changed all the stuff that people love and count on for the series. So if I were you, before you all go and buy it, maybe check out some gameplay or some reviews first, because people are just tearing this apart. And these are user reviews. Critic reviews, it's getting, I think, 8s. But user reviews, people just hate it.
And considering my love for how the games have played so far, I probably will be in that crowd if they've done a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
Which is scary.
I mean, people love your game and they love doing the same things in your game. So why would you change it? I don't know what they were thinking, but I've never played the series. And so I'm not going to start now, especially not with this one. People saying what they are about it.
Who knows? Maybe you'll love it because you'd have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, you know,
Maybe.
frame of reference.
Right.
Maybe. But that leaves us with Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak 2. And Agent Nil said, I'm a big fan of the Trails series. Great series, but hard to get into when there are about 13 games that all tie into each other on some level. So I've never played this series. Don't have time to go back and do 1,300-hour RPGs. But in general, this looks like the kind of anime RPG nonsense that is right up my alley. You got your pretty white-haired anime boys. I love that. So of these three, that's the one that I would probably go for. Before we move on.
Oh yeah, that is me. Sorry. Before we move on, it's even color coded, and I can't even remember to do that. Before we move on, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. This segment is proudly sponsored by A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast. The show explores the history of video games through the stories and experiences of the people who lived it. This week's question is: what video game in your collection are you most embarrassed to own? Let Bill know your answer by sending him a tweet at A Gamer Looks at 40 on Twitter and Blue Sky.
So I brought mine, and
Show
my
and
most
tell.
embarrassing game is
American Idol on the PS2. You got some splaining to do.
it came in a lot that I bought from someone. They had a bunch of PS2 games, so I, of course, picked it up, and I have tried to actually trade this in, and they said they didn't want it. So I feel like I'm kind of stuck with it, right? And I have yet to play it. I could burn it, right? Yeah. You know what? I'm going to hold on to that for the eventual apocalypse that's coming. So I definitely, I'll think of you when I burn it, though, Donnie. So
what have you got to trade, man? Well, I've got this copy of American Idol for the PlayStation 2.
And if you look at it, it's like really crappy, like N64 PS1 graphics as well. Definitely
now that is a
shovelware.
time capsule of a game right there.
Right. And it's not only that, it's American Idol with Simon, Paula, and pretty recognizable signature Randy Jackson.
See, I think you should donate that to the Strong Museum and see if they'll take it. even if them are going, you know what? No, thank you.
Yeah, some things are just better left forgotten.
Deacon85 says, as someone who owns Complete in Box Cutthroat Island and American Gladiators for the Super Nintendo, there is no embarrassment in my collection.
Wow. Fair
Complete
enough.
in box. Wow. My most embarrassing game is Death Stranding on PS4. Not because it's an embarrassing game, but because of what it represents. So when that game was going to come out, I didn't give a fuck about it. I wasn't interested, whatever. And then as it got closer and people were so hyped for it, I let myself be influenced. It was a peer pressure buy, 100%. And when I started playing it, as I've said before on here, I got 6 hours into it and I just couldn't do it anymore because I hated it. And I knew I would. So it like sits there on my shelf mocking me for the purchase of just essentially wasted money because peer pressure.
It's got the whole clown face and the clown nose and all that stuff on it.
Yep, exactly.
Nice. Mine was Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen shopping adventure for the PlayStation 1,
Nice.
I believe. That was before I gave that thing away. So I just like Ryan, I acquired it in a lot of games, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm never going to play this. Like, I have no interest in playing whatsoever. So I think one time while I was streaming, I used it as a giveaway or whatnot. But as far as like the second most embarrassing game is probably one of the Sesame Street games for the NES that I have no intention of ever playing it. But just because like I want to have a lot of the NES cartridges, it sits there as an embarrassment.
Simon Asher says the Strong Museum can use the American Idol game to prop up a wobbly table or something.
All right, thank you for coming, students. Please take your seats and welcome back to Gaming History 101. Now, people often think of gaming as being a lazy pursuit and entertainment that leads to nothing more than antisocial behavior or putty for a mind. every gamer out there would tell you that that is wrong and that gaming is a useful tool for your mind, just as like reading a book or solving a challenging puzzle. But what if I told you that there was one game that was useful to all of humanity in the realm of biology, chemistry, and medicine?
Tell me more.
Yeah, well, in today's lesson, we'll be talking about the protein shape mapping game known as Fold It. So as you most likely have guessed, I am a bit of a nerd.
No.
You think?
Right?
No. Mr. Was it octopus don't have tentacles? Nerds don't say stuff like that.
Never. So I love learning new things, and I actually watch history and science related YouTube channels to kind of satiate my continuous curiosity. And a few days ago, I came across a video from the channel Veritasium talking about how AI is revolutioning science by learning how to build the configuration of protein structures. Now, I'd imagine that most people, Blue, who hear this concept and...
Oh, are you still talking?
Yeah, right. Would maybe use it to fall asleep to. But I understood the application of this scientific breakthrough, as proteins can be pretty useful, and especially in the realm of medicine. So I stuck around to listen. And, much to my glee, I had found out that there was actually a gaming element to this story that I was previously unaware of. And I thought, who might enjoy this info? Well, I'm guessing my nerdy friends of the podcast, maybe not in the podcast, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, first things first, I have to do a quick, very high-level overview of what proteins are and how they can be useful. Bear with me. It's necessary for today's story. Blue.
Said nothing. I'm paying attention. I'm listening.
Excellent. So proteins, for the most part, are chains of amino acids. They contain several different elements that make up each one of those amino acids. And when you combine all of these proteins, or all of these, you create a protein, and those proteins actually react by bundling up into shapes, often resembling the knots from your outdoor Christmas lights that end up being what you return to in December. If you remember Christmas Vacation, it goes, oh, we got a knot. Can you fix that one?
Yeah,
hands it off for
a
the
big
rest.
old clump.
Yeah, you got it. So that's kind of like what proteins end up looking like, right? The orientation of these structures really has to do with how the elements and the bonds in the chain of the amino acids interact with each other. And sometimes some of them attract each other, some of them repel. Now, the orientation can often dictate what the protein is capable of doing. So Veritasium actually ended up using the example of hemoglobin being the exact right configuration to carry oxygen molecules in your blood. So if you can figure out a protein's orientation, you can synthetically make ones that perform specific tasks. Like, for example, replicating human antibodies to mass produce snake antivenom. Because the old way of doing it is you would take a snake, get their venom, and then put it into like a horse, the venom, and then extract the antibodies. But you're dealing with horse antibodies versus human antibodies, doesn't exactly match up. And it's kind of difficult to mass produce that. So,
and what's funny is in Venom 3, Venom actually molded with a horse. So
there we go. It goes full circle.
Molded.
Molded by it.
So it took scientist Cyrus Leventhal 12 years in the 1950s and 60s to map out one single protein. And as you can imagine, it's not exactly a walk in the park. We're working on scales at the molecular level. So not being able to see a protein is like trying to figure out the shape of a ball of wire in the dark. And to compound the problem, the orientation is a mathematical nightmare. With a short protein of 35 amino acids can actually produce 1 decillion, or 10 to the 33rd power, possible configurations. That's a lot for anybody who's playing at home. So naturally, science said, well, we see the utility of a work. Let's figure out a way to make this work. And Professor John Molt in the 1990s developed a competition known as CASP, C-A-S-P, or Critical Assignment of Structure Prediction, where he tasked participants to find the structure of a single protein by providing them with a list of amino acid chains. The idea was that if they could figure out the orientation within 90% of the correct structure, we could use that team's algorithm to model it to predict more and more proteins. However, even the best participants were only be able to accurately predict between 40 and 50%, which was considered to be statistically insignificant. So one of the early algorithms, though, that showed promise was one that was called Rosetta, and it was created by University of Washington professor David Baker. Now, one of the tricks that he used for his calculations was pooling together the processing power of idle computers, similar to what we saw with the Air Force in Project Condor, where they patched together like almost 2,000 PS3s. Now, he provided that software called Rosetta at home to anyone who wanted to be a part of the project. So imagine your PC was solving world problems while you slept, more or less. And what was cool about it, and what ended up happening, is Baker created a screensaver that was included within the software that allowed volunteers to watch what the system was doing. And interestingly enough, many of them reached out to him to say that they thought that they could actually do better than what the computer was doing at the time. So they were watching this try to create this whole entire algorithm, and they're saying, hey, you know what? I would have chosen this versus this. And so Baker looked at that and said, okay, why don't I make a video game out of this if people can do this work on their own? So he created this video game called Fold It in 2008, where players could manipulate 3D models of proteins. And the goal was to fold the proteins into stable, well-shaped structures. And the proteins were made up of a series of segments called residues, which were like bendy, like Lego pieces with their arms sticking out. Now, you, as a player, you aim to make the protein as compact as possible, avoiding empty spaces where water molecules could get inside. You ensure that no two residues were too close to each other, as that also lowered your score. Now, you used various tools provided by Foldit to manipulate the protein structure and experimented with the tools to find out the best configuration. So the game is actually was able to make some really wonderful breakthroughs from people playing it. So, for example, in 2011, Foldit players helped unlock the structure of an enzyme related to AIDS virus, which had baffled scientists for over a decade. And this discovery was a significant step forward in the quest for a cure for the retrovirus diseases like AIDS. And they did that within 3 years versus 10 years from what scientists were trying to do. They also helped create some synthetic protein designs. Foldit players have contributed to the design of new synthetic proteins. These proteins have the potential application in fields of including medicine and biotechnology. They also improved the algorithm from the original Rosetta. So insights from Foldit players have led to improvements of protein folding algorithms, and these advancements have helped enhance the accuracy and efficiency of the protein structure and prediction. And in fact, what they're doing right now is they're actually utilizing AI to play the game. So all of a sudden, your computer or computer AI programs are now playing Foldit at a much more accelerated rate. So they figured out how Foldit players play typically, and then turn that into an algorithm as well.
Puzzle Better says this is like porn to me. So don't you dare stop, Ryan. She needs this.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is sarcasm or truth, so I appreciate
Truth. She's been talking about molecular modeling in grad school.
Love it. Love it.
And Ryan, I don't know about you, but I always try to make sure my residue stays away from other people's residue.
It's just polite.
Well done. Now, players of the game were actually even given credit, though, in scientific papers, including the Nature paper in 2010. Foldit players were credited in that paper published in the Journal of Nature for providing useful results that matched or outperformed algorithmically computed solutions. In 2018, Scientific Reports, Foldit players contributed to a paper published in Nature Scientific Reports describing Foldit's role in the WeFold calibration in CASP 10 and 11. And PLS Bio paper and Foldit players were co-authors in a 2019 paper published in PLS Biology. The paper discussed building 2 novocrioelectron microscopy structures collaboratively with citizen scientists. A mouthful, to say the least. So I think this is really cool. If you think about it, it kind of combines the fun of gaming with serious business of scientific research. It allowed players to contribute to real world discoveries in protein folding. And it's also a unique platform where anybody can essentially become a scientist, solving complex puzzles and making meaningful contributions to biochemistry. So to kind of wrap things up, you can still play Folded today if you want to. So if this is something you're interested in, you can still be a part of this solution. All you got to do is go to https://fold.it and help be a part of a new scientific revolution.
Fold it. Kind of like
it sounds like Bop It, doesn't it? Yeah. Bop It, twist it. So thank you for attending today's Gaming History 101, and a big thank to Veritasium for help with today's subject or lesson. Definitely check out their most recent video that they released if this was interesting to you and you want to find out more. And just a reminder, if you have ideas for a story or topic that you'd like to hear, send us a message at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com, and we might feature your suggestion.
Thank you, Professor Rybread.
Next week, we're going to have to do something like top 10 muscly guys in video games just to kind of even out the nerdiness.
I'll see what I can do for you.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you for listening to episode 152 of Gamers Week Podcast. And a big thank you to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Love Retro BTW, A Gamer Looks at 40 Podcast, and Pixel Pond Production Company for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to check out their links in the show notes. If you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky at Gamers Week PC. Watch us right here on Twitch at twitch.tv/Gamers Week Podcast, where we will record live every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. Visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com. Or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. And last but not least, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamersweek. And finally, since you made it all the way to the end of the episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know how we did. We really do value your feedback. While you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice.
Sam Disfaction in at the finish line with Aragorn scent, just because.
Mark it down.
I thought we were going to make it an entire episode without breaking out the board, but...
Sam Disfaction, you're doing God's work.
Yep.
Another tick for Stinky
Another
Aragorn.
tick on the board.
And now all the emojis are
Yep,
flying.
I'm glad to see everybody's enjoying the emojis. That's what they're for. Make it rain.
Chocolate rain. All right. You guys have yourself a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
That is something that lives rent-free in my head, are movie quotes. And it doesn't matter from what movie it is. It doesn't matter if it's a comedy movie, a horror movie, action, adventure, drama, all that stuff. I wish I knew how to quit you. That's just like, it's bam.
Throws
It
out
gets
the
in there.
Brokeback Mountain.
It digs in and it's there for life. So I'm going to be quoting movies like when I'm 90 and in a nursing home and they're coming in to change my diaper and I'm just going to be like, 3 days to retirement. And they're like, what the fuck did he say?
They'll be doing rock, paper, scissors outside in the hall to see who has to go in to change
Exactly.
old man Griggs's diapers.
Anybody too old for this
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, patrons with benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple. And I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VD-STDs things, right? Make it fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
that was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.